During the talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi, Foreign Minister Wang Yi emphasized that since the war broke out, China has been actively pursuing peace and promoting negotiations. President Xi Jinping solemnly put forward the four-point proposition for maintaining and promoting peace and stability in the Middle East, which has received positive responses from the international community. The current regional situation is at a critical point of war and transformation. China believes that it is urgent to stop the war in a comprehensive manner, and it is even more undesirable to restart the war. It is particularly important to insist on negotiations. China supports the Iranian side in safeguarding national sovereignty and security, and appreciates the Iranian side's willingness to seek a political solution through diplomatic channels. Regarding the issue of the strait, the international community has common concerns about the restoration of normal and safe passage of the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, I have a very good relationship with President Xi. I find him to be a tremendous guy, and we get along well, and you see how we do. We're doing a lot of business with China and making a lot of money. We're making a lot of money. It's different than it used to be. But I'll be talking about that'll be one subject. But he's been very nice about this. In all fairness, he gets like 60% of his oil from Hormuz, and I think he's been very respectful. We haven't been challenged by China. They don't challenge us, and he wouldn't do that. I don't think he'd do that because of me.
Is Iran now gaining the upper hand across land, sea, and diplomacy as Washington rushes forward with an emergency proposal? Facing a narrowing window, has the Trump administration effectively handed Tehran a 48-hour deadline to consider a one-page deal? Just hours before a crucial meeting between Abbas Araghchi and China's Wang Yi, did Washington quietly send Iran a confidential memorandum? And after mounting pressure in the Strait of Hormuz, is the U.S. now scrambling to end the conflict before events tilt further in Iran's favor? Amid the escalating Hormuz standoff, Iran and the United States may now be moving cautiously toward a possible agreement aimed at ending the conflict. The White House is reportedly close to finalizing a one-page memorandum of understanding with Iran to halt the war and define a nuclear framework. According to two U.S. officials cited by Axios, the Trump administration has already handed Tehran a fresh set of proposed conditions. Washington is reportedly expecting a formal Iranian response within the next 48 hours, though no breakthrough has been officially confirmed so far. However, Trump's proposed terms are said to depend entirely on a final agreement, leaving the possibility of renewed military action still open. The conditions listed out by Trump administration are: Iran would reportedly commit to a long-term moratorium on all uranium enrichment-related activities under the proposed framework. In return, the United States would agree to gradually lift major economic sanctions imposed on Iran over the years. Washington is also expected to release billions of dollars in previously frozen Iranian financial assets as part of the deal. Both Tehran and Washington would simultaneously move toward ending the blockade and restoring navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. Reports suggest the U.S. president paused the Hormuz operation in an effort to prevent the fragile ceasefire from collapsing. With indirect negotiations continuing behind closed doors, Trump reportedly did not want military escalation to derail diplomatic progress. Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are also said to be playing a key role in back-channel mediation efforts with Iran. If Tehran agrees to the proposed memorandum, officials believe a formal end to the conflict involving Iran, the U.S., and Israel could soon be announced. A proposed 30-day negotiation window on reopening the Strait of Hormuz and addressing Iran's nuclear activities would then begin. Sources cited by Axios claim that any future direct negotiations may take place either in Islamabad or Geneva. However, if diplomacy collapses once again, the United States could reportedly restore the Hormuz blockade or resume strikes on Iranian targets. Reports indicate that the United States demanded a 15 to 20-year moratorium on Iran's uranium enrichment activities. However, when Iran reportedly proposed a shorter 5-year pause, Washington is said to have pushed for a far longer restriction period. The Trump administration also allegedly sought punitive mechanisms in case Tehran violated any enrichment-related commitments. If Mojtaba Khamenei accepts the proposed memorandum, Iran could reportedly be required to halt large parts of its nuclear program entirely. Expanded IAEA inspections and restrictions on operations at underground nuclear facilities are also said to be among Washington's key demands. Amid soaring tensions with Iran, Donald Trump's top diplomat has dropped a political bombshell in Washington, confirming a major shift in a U.S. war strategy. From the White House podium, Secretary of State Marco Rubio declared victory and announced that Operation Epic Fury is officially over, as attention now swings to Project Freedom. Rubio said the Iran campaign has entered what he called a new phase, with Washington pivoting from full-scale strikes to a mission focused on securing the Strait of Hormuz. He insisted that Project Freedom is now the centerpiece of U.S. policy in the Gulf, aimed at protecting commercial shipping and keeping one of the world's most vital choke points open.
Operation Epic Fury is concluded. We achieved the objectives of that operation. I'm not going to, we're not cheering for an additional situation to occur. We would prefer the path of peace. What the president would prefer is a deal. He would prefer to sit down, work out a memorandum of understanding for future negotiations that touches on all the key topics that have to be addressed, a full opening of the strait so the world can get back to normal. He preferred that be negotiated through the route that Steve and Jared have been working and that all of us have been supporting. That's the route he prefers. That is so far not the route that Iran has chosen. And so the result has been that the United States has to do something about the fact that we're the only nation on earth that can do anything to open up a lane within the Straits of Hormuz to get product and to rescue these people that are trapped in there. And that's what we're undergoing now. What that may lead to in the future is speculative. I'm not going to speculate about what it would take or what it would do. But look, the message to Iran, these guys are facing, they are facing real catastrophic destruction to their economy, generational destruction to their economy, generational destruction to the wealth of their country, imposed on themselves by the actions that they're taking. They should check themselves before they wreck themselves in the direction that they're going.
Meanwhile, President Trump has abruptly halted Project Freedom, just one day after announcing the high-stakes mission to break Iran's grip on the Gulf. The White House now says American warships will temporarily pull back from active escort duty in Hormuz, easing direct confrontation even as tensions in the waterway remain high. Trump insists the pause in Project Freedom is only for a short period, presenting it as a calculated move rather than a climb down under Iranian pressure. The announcement dropped on Trump's social platform just one day after the operation began, prompting fresh questions about why the mission was dialed back so quickly. Donald Trump said, and I quote, based on a request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we have had during the campaign against the country of Iran and additionally, the fact that great progress has been made toward a complete and final agreement with representatives of Iran, we have mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom, the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed, unquote. Trump frames the step back as proof that negotiations with Iran are making great progress, hinting that a broader agreement could be within reach. He also credits Pakistan and other mediating nations, saying they urged Washington to ease off militarily to give diplomacy room to work. Even with escorts paused, the U.S. blockade on Iran's port stays firmly in place, keeping economic pressure on Tehran while warships step slightly back from the front line. The abrupt shift has fueled debate over whether Project Freedom actually met its goals, or whether it stalled before it could change realities in Hormuz. The Pentagon, meanwhile, stresses that recent clashes saw Iranian boats, drones and missiles destroyed, portraying the short-lived operation as a battlefield success despite the pause.